Hi guys, and welcome to another 3D code tutorial. Now this one will start in Maya because I just need to grab a model from Maya's content browser. And what I'd like to show you today is actually how to unfold the UV coordinates within the 3D code. Now, if I go here in Maya and actually check this out, like in the UV texture editor, I can go here from the UV texture editor. Pretty much any other software rather than Maya is good. But now, if we take a look, this model already has UVs, and I'm going to just kind of intentionally mess it up. So I'll just go and do like a planar projection. So like planar, and I'll do it like on Z-axis. So just for you, easier to see. And now with these coordinates, which are kind of overlapping and so on and so forth, I'm just going to actually export this as an OBJ. So export selection, and I'll just kind of go here and export this as an OBJ, and I'll actually export it like to desktop. So to code, okay, and I'll just export it. Okay, now there's a couple of ways that we can approach this problem. Now we can do the UVs in Maya, but so far I just want to import this model in 3D code and work on the UVs from scratch. So there are other tutorials where if you're not familiar with what the UVs are, so you need to kind of Google it up, but this is something that kind of tells on which part of our model or on which faces will have pixels from our texture. So I'll just turn this off and actually going to import this model. So I'll just go import model for per pixel painting. Okay, and then I'll just go for the desktop and actually open this model. Okay, so now there are a couple of things that you need to pay attention to. The normal map preset. So we're not going to actually do the textures in this tutorial, but anyway, it depends on where you want to export your texture. You can choose like the suiting preset like Maya 2015 plus, or if you want to export it to Unreal or ZBrush, or maybe you can kind of add your own normal preset, then it's okay. Or if you want to kind of continue texturing maybe for Substance Designer and Painter, whatever. So far I will just go with Maya 2015 plus because I'm intending to bring this model back to Maya. But however, if your final destination is the Unreal Engine, then you can of course choose the Unreal. Now I'll choose this one. So far I'm not have a need to use any of these options, even though I'm going to maybe address to specific ones later. Now I can either keep the UVs or I can do the auto mapping. So for some hard surface modeling, like models which are not characters, actually this might be a good option, and the 3D code will kind of going to do the excellent job. I can either keep my UVs or I can actually use the auto mapping. So I'll just keep the UVs now so that you can see what I'm actually importing from Maya. And now these are my UVs. So if you don't see like this texture editor, so wireframe, so that here where I can see my UVs, and keep in mind that now I'm in actually paint mode. So if I want to paint now, for example, on this model, and if I paint it, like you can see on the back, because now I have like the overlapping UVs, I'll paint on both sides of my model, okay, which is kind of not good. So I need to unfold these UVs and also kind of keep in mind that all my parts of geometry have approximate the same density of pixels. Okay, so now here I'm in the paint mode. However, I can kind of move to the UV room, sorry, paint room and UV room. This is how they call it in 3D code. And now you can see how my UVs are actually stretched, and you can see that the pixels will stretch in here and so on and so forth. So I just undo like my painting, which is good. And now I'll just kind of try to make the UVs on my own. So if I want to delete the previous UVs, or I can do like clear seams, even though I don't have, because now I just did like the planar mapping in Maya. But now I can actually, by default, I'm in a mark seams tool. So now how the 3D code actually approaches to this problem. So first, what I'm going to do, since I have a symmetrical model, I will just press S to enable symmetry here. And in a way, I'm just, if I click like mark seams, you can see that I can select particular edge here on this kind of poly model. However, I prefer to start with the edge loops so that I can maybe find some loops here. So what I did just right now, I actually marked some edges, and the 3D code actually performed the cutting edge. So it cut the edges and it tried to unfold this geometry. However, nothing has happened. I will just try to address this problem a bit better maybe in Maya, if you're not familiar with the UVs, but pretty much in Maya we'll probably do with the same thing. So I can go like for the edges, so right click, and here by pressing and holding right click I can access this marking menu and choose the edge component, and pretty much I can shift double click to select the loops. Okay, and I'll just switch to default material so that maybe you can see this selection a bit better. And now I'll just try to pretty much select same group of edges that I did in 3D code. So, and then I'll click, I hope, I don't know which one is which. Okay, so I'm holding the shift now, and I'll double click now to select this range of edges. So now if I go to my UVs, I can kind of go here and choose to cut my UVs. Okay, so I'll just right click and go for the UV shell. I'll just use the move tool or press W on the keyboard so that you can see I actually created like a new shell. Okay, and then again I can actually unfold this. Okay, so you can see what we are getting here. Sorry, I'll just kind of remove this material so that you can see a bit better. So I'll just kind of undo it like before it wasn't unfolded. So now you can see that I'm having like these squares here are stretching. So it means if I kind of paint on it, it will be the stretched pixels. And when I'm unfold this, sorry, Shift Z, it will kind of unwrap this cylindrical shape, and it will kind of cut it on the marked edges and actually unwrap it so that it actually going to fit my pixels on the texture with less deformations, and to cover like the significant part of the resolution. Now most likely that I should kind of do this like by using symmetry in Maya, and now I need to cut all these edges and unfold it. So cut, unfold it, and so on and so forth. Now in 3D code, actually the code is doing all this stuff simultaneously. So now if I decide to actually cut here, now you can see the 3D code. If I hovering, now you don't see it like if I'm kind of having my cursor in the empty area, but if I hover this over the part, I can see how it tends to unfold my UVs, and you can see that the result is pretty much same, just like in Maya. I mean, in Maya it's kind of maybe rotate differently. However, you can see that the shape is pretty much the same. So actually it kind of saves a couple of more clicks, and so far, but by my opinion, it kind of gives me the way more better level of control, because now I can see what I'm doing, like, and I have like at least 2 clicks less than in Maya. So now I'll tend to find the loops here that I can cut these parts, and I'll just try to cut these kind of thingies here. So I don't know, maybe here, here. Here. Maybe I will just kind of go view and turn off the grid. Okay. So I'll cut here, and now you can see it will only, if I kind of try to select this kind of edge loop, it will only cut between marked areas. So now I can see, now I've already seen how it's going to look unfolded. I'm not going to go back to Maya, but when I kind of trying this stuff on, I didn't kind of get such great result in Maya for unfolding this particular shape. So maybe I can leave it like this, or maybe I can actually try to maybe unfold it like a bit differently. So you can see here and maybe here. So maybe I can get like a bit of a better unwrapping. Sorry. So now let us go for the legs. Okay, nice. And I'll just kind of be careful where I'm putting like my seams, maybe somewhere here. Okay, and now you can see how the leg will be unfolded. And now for the feet. Now this is a simple character. I mean, usually the process of unfolding is more complex, but anyway, you can see here that I can actually now click and unfold these shapes the way I kind of wanted, whatever. So now I need to do like the head and the hands. Now here I can cut within the loop and kind of unfold both sides of faces. However, sometimes we need, or in most of the cases, the modelers try to preserve this part of face like on a single shell, on a single UV shell. So I'll just kind of make these cuts for the like eye holes, even though these are kind of very low poly model. And I'll just kind of try to cut it just for the mouth hole, so that you can see a bit better when I'm unfolding this face area, how it's going to look like. And instead of to use loop, I will just use like a mark seams tool now. So I'll just click, and it kind of selects edge by edge. So apart from the edge loops, which are actually select the whole edge loop, sometimes where we not want to select the edge loop, then we'll use like a mark seam tool, and then I'm not holding the shift, so it automatically adds to selection. However, if you want to subtract from selection, then you will use a control button. Okay, so I'm just going to continue to unfold this. Okay, let's say this is good enough. Now I can see how each of these parts are actually look like, and it looks pretty good so far. Now I need to do like the hardest part, which are the hands and the palms and fingers. So now I'll just try to actually first divide the fingers here. So there's multiple way how I can do this. I can do it like this, or maybe like this. Well, sorry, I will need to switch back to the edge loops tool. And so far I'm just going to divide the fingers and also try to actually divide them on half. So this is a quite good topology. So in a way, it's good if your edge loops are regular, then it will make your unfolding UV process much easier. Okay, so or maybe actually extract the thumb here and also divide the thumb. Now you can see if I go for bottom and the top part of the fingers, that they're kind of pretty nicely unfolded. However, the palm is not that good because I actually need to divide it like a couple of times. So maybe here. So I'm not holding the shift. It actually, this tool also automatically adds the selection, and let's say here. So now you can see the palm is also unfolded, and it kind of looks nice, even though maybe I can cut it somewhere here as well, even though but I don't have to, so I'll just maybe leave it like this. That's good enough. Now you can see when I'm not hovering over the model that I'm actually didn't apply these changes yet. So kind of code has them in its memory or elsewhere, but actually they're not actually applied just yet. So and there's the apply UV set option. However, before I use this, I need to actually give a command to unwrap the UVs. So I'll just press unwrap UVs, and you can see now I have my UVs actually unfolded here. Okay, which is quite nice. However, if you're not satisfied like with the packing, you can just try to pack UVs, and it will kind of try to pack it like differently. Or pack UV, it packs UV islands without the rotation, flipping, and so on and so forth. So this kind of you have like a little help hint to see how it's going to look. Okay, now I can see that these UVs are actually unwrapped here, and now I need to apply them, so it will not be valid until I apply them. Anyway, if I try to switch to paint room, actually the 3D code will kind of warn me that the UV set is not applied. So I'll just kind of apply. This operation cannot be undone. Do you want to continue? And I'll just say okay. So this is like kind of cool. Okay, and now I can export this model. I can also go to the paint room. You have changed something in UV room. You need to apply changes before it will come visible in the paint room. Okay, I will apply it. So it will give me a warning one more time. And now you can see here in the texture editor, I have like these presets, sorry, these changes applied. Okay, so now I have some bug here, but actually now you can see that actually works good. Now I'll just go back to the UV room, and actually, well, it's really irrelevant, but I'm just going to go and export objects and textures. Now here I don't want to export the textures because I didn't paint it anything, but I just want to export now geometry. And in this case I will also kind of go for the desktop, and I'll say this from code to Maya. Okay, now, and I'll export it like as an OBJ. Okay, now if I go back to Maya, now I'll just open a new scene file, new scene. Okay, so now I can actually go and import this model. So I'll just go on desktop, and now don't get confused, like this is set to import like FBX file, but actually my file has the OBJ extension. And now you can see from code to Maya, and I'll just import this one. I'll just press F to fit this in, and I'll just go here and open UV editor, or here from the modeling panel on the UV menu you can open the UV editor, and you can see that our actually UV coordinates have been transferred successfully. Now I can click here, and you can see that the coordinates are kind of unfolded quite nicely, that we have like no or very small kind of pixel deformation, that all this square which kind of represents the density of the pixels are divided equally and have pretty much the same size. Okay, and this is like quite nice thing that you can do like with 3D code. Also, there are a couple of stuff that I want to share with you. Now, maybe the guys which are kind of more experienced and kind of have worked with the characters, they will kind of ask me how code works with the Udim. Now, the Udim is actually kind of rule made by, I think, Foundry Murray to actually kind of put this coordinates on a different UV spaces, and actually enabling us to kind of, instead of paint on one 2K texture or one 4K texture, that we can have multiple spaces with multiple textures using the same material or shading group, which kind of gives us more resolution on our character. And now even though I didn't quite get it like how you can kind of do it in code, but you can, but I think it's much easier to do like the Udims in Maya, so I'll just show you how to do this. I'll just right click and by holding right click on this marking menu, I'll choose like the UV shell and select all my UV shells, and here I'll just go to the modify and choose a layout tool. Okay, so layout, I'll just going to reset the settings, and now if I lay out UVs, actually it will kind of increase some space. Now you need to be careful when you do the layout in Maya. You can see now this kind of actually indicates that this kind of UVs are kind of crossing to another UV space. So I'll just undo the layout, and you can see that now this layout function by default actually tries to actually occupy the maximum UV space. However, sometimes it's crosses from the UV space 1 to UV space 2. Now you can kind of control that, and I'll just say that I want to have like this shell padding and tile padding to be 2 pixels, and if I apply it, now you can see it will not touch the space. Now I will press Ctrl Z to undo this one more time, and I'll just one more time go to the modify, layout. Okay, and in this case, if you want to create the udems, let's say that I want to divide this kind of UV coordinates for this character on four 2K textures, then I can kind of go here into the layout options. So one more time, modify layout, even though I have it open, but just it's good to repeat, to remember layout. And then I can say tiles that I want. If I want to have 4 udems, I need to have like 2 udems horizontally and 2 udems vertically. And I'll just press enter to confirm this, and I'll just hit the apply button. So now you can see that actually now my UV coordinates or my kind of unfolded shells are having like multiple udems, and that I have maybe like a slightly different resolution. And here, if you want, you can preserve 3D ratios or preserve UV ratios. So I'll just try to see if I'm going to get any other result. Well, not quite. Okay. Well, it's pretty much the same. So if any of you have like solutions for that, please let me know. Now I'm just going to actually apply this, and now I will try to export this new model into the 3D code to paint the textures in 3D code. Now I plan to do like separate tutorials like on Paint Room in 3D code, but these are just the basic. This is mostly UV related lecture. So I'll just kind of export selection as an OBJ, of course, to desktop, and I'll just call it like Udim. Okay. And I will export this selection. So you can kind of save this file. You might not want to save it. Okay, I'll just save it like save as like desktop UV, sorry. And now I'll just actually create a new scene and re-import like my model with udems. So file, import model 4 per pixel painting. Now I'll just try to find my Udim OBJ, and I'll just try to open it. Now this is the important part. So when you have udems, and you know, so first during the import, it is important to keep your UVs, and also that you want to import UV tiles as UV sets. Okay, so if I click here, I'll just now click OK, so I can choose the texture resolution. I will just, for this example, what is good about code, you can paint like 16K textures, which is like awesome, and not every software can do this. Back in the days, only Mari and 3D Code can do this. UV Painter has like 4K limit. Now I think it can go to the 8K, but just keep that in mind. It can be significant advantage in some occasions. And now I'll just kind of press OK and wait for a while. Now here you can see that our model is successfully imported, and now I'll just go to the UV texture editor. So now let's go to Maya and see the name of my UV spaces. So if you take a look at this, this is UVV1, 1001, 1002, 1011, 1012. So you can see like the horizontal kind of goes by units, and the upper or vertical goes by tens. So 1, 11, 21, and so on and so forth. So this is like the number scheme in this kind of, so you can see in this Udim environment. So now here you can see that I can see space 1001, and here in Maya, okay, you can see that this is like exact the same. So if I want to see the other spaces in code, I can just kind of go here, and you can see that all my spaces are actually visible for me, but it really doesn't matter. So in 3D code, if I want to paint, so I'll just kind of go for the textures, and because I'm going to use like these smart materials, and now all the smart materials mostly require two textures, which are kind of occlusion and curvature map. So you can go for the textures and bake it manually, or if you're using like certain type of shader, I don't know, I'll use like this kind of leather maybe. Now the code will ask you, smart material requires curvature cavity layer, do you want to calculate it right now? So okay, I'll just press OK. I'm kind of using like the default stuff, whatever. Okay, and it's going to bake like the curvature, and also it's going to bake the occlusion map. So there's two ways that you can do it. You can actually let the material do it for you. So now you can see here is the how our texture look. You can see when you use the smart material, you will have like I'll just kind of zoom in so that you can see it like a bit better. You have like this render preview, and here you can tile the texture if you want. So most of the textures here in the code are tileable, so you can define the size of the pattern that you want, or type of you can kind of do the project your map from camera or cube mapping or whatever. I'll kind of talk about this like in separate tutorial. So far I will just close it down and actually use the symmetry maybe. So now you can see let's go here to this texture preset. So now I can actually paint here. Let me add a separate layer. So I'll just call it like a ladder. Okay. Okay, and I can paint here. Now you can see it's quite cool. And now if I'm cross from one Udim to another, you can see that actually now these texture will be painted automatically. What is good in 3D code as well, I can kind of scale the brush and I can paint on Udims directly. So far I don't know how things are going like in Substance Painter, but actually the Substance Painter, being a game software, added the Udim quite in recent versions, and actually it has a problem because you need to kind of only paint on separate Udim and then change the layer and paint. Like you don't have to care about it like in 3D code, and you just don't care about it like you paint on all Udims. So let us add a new layer, and maybe, I don't know, some kind of metal. Okay, I don't know, whatever. So now I can paint on top of this with this other material, and then maybe like let's use one of the default materials. I can mix the material on same layer, but for the sake of kind of clarity, I prefer to use like one material per layer. However, you can see you can use the multiple materials on the layer. Now you don't have to use symmetry all the time, and what is good about it, like you can have like all this kind of things, blending modes, just like you have in the Photoshop. So you can kind of use a screen or a multiply. Okay, so it really kind of depends. Standard blend, and you can also use the opacity on the layer, so like 50% and so on and so forth. So let's use 70. So it really kind of doesn't matter, but you can now see that these are kind of stuff that you can actually do with a 3D code, and that udems are actually working quite well. So keep in mind that we have like 4 2K textures just right now, and that we are painting on these spaces like simultaneously, that we having like a multiple layers. I will just maybe turn the symmetry off for now and just kind of use a couple of different painting stuff, whatever. So it's ugly, but it really doesn't matter. It's kind of good for you just to kind of I will have like dedicated lecture on smart materials and so on and so forth, so whatever. But let's say we kind of satisfied with this and we like this kind of very much. Let's kind of use this. Now all these materials are tweakable, and let's say that we want to export our result back into Maya, Blender, or wherever you want. Now I'll just go here and choose export objects and textures. So in this case, I want to export the textures, and depend on the application that you're using. You need to kind of choose one of the rendering presets. So if you're using the Octane renderer, or Legacy Mental Ray or V-Ray for architecture, or Arnold, there is no preset for Redshift. However, the ERR workflow for Arnold or Arnold standard can be applied to the Redshift as well. So you need to experiment with that a bit more. But anyway, I'll just kind of choose Arnold IOR workflow. So now you can define the separate path for the textures, but if you actually define your path, then you can save it, or in this case, since I already have my model in Maya with the udems, I can maybe export just the textures. So I'll choose the Arnold IRR preset so far, and what is important, I will try to export UV sets as tiles. Okay. So if it's not good, I will just kind of try to kind of export that, and here I'm just going to export it on the desktop, and so far I'm just going to click export. Okay, and now it's going to export like different textures and so on and so forth. In this case, I left it in the Targa format, but actually you can choose any extension of your preference. Okay. Okay, and I'll just go back in Maya. I'll just assign a new material, and I'll add a Arnold AI standard shader. So and then I'll just browse the diffuse textures. So file, browse, and these are my textures here. So I'll just use like a diffuse and actually open. And now I'll choose here for the UV tiling mode, I'll choose Udim Mari. And you can see 4 tiles found. So I'll just click here and try to actually generate the preview. And now you can see here that all the textures have been placed just like in 3D code. So they're not gold and so on and so forth, but actually this is because we didn't tweak the shader. So maybe we can kind of just add a skydem light and maybe try to put like the rest of the guys here like AI standard, and just kind of try to use like a specular. So browse, and then we'll choose like a specular, and also we need to say like Udim Mary or Mari, and generate preview. So 4, 5, 6, I guess, and just let us see maybe how it's going to look in the Arnold. Okay, so you can see it's pretty much everything in place where it was in 3D code. Now here we need to kind of import, I prefer to import like a bump map. I'm not sure about and maybe the displacement map. I don't know if kind of, but code actually export it. I think it is. So just geometry, let's go for the bump map. And I'll just try to go to use like a bump map if there's any. So there it is, like a bump map. And now you can see I need to say Udim Mari. Okay, and then generate preview. But actually you can see now here in the Arnold it's already happening. Now I can tweak the value for the bump and so on and so forth. But then again, I'll just go here to maybe decrease the bump value. Not that much. Okay. Now it's far more better, but I'm not quite sure like with this. I didn't quite like how this actually specular map is actually working. Let me see what we have here from the textures. So we have like roughness. So let's use the roughness map. So there is a roughness here. File, image file, and where's the roughness? Or specular roughness. Okay, so I'll open, and then again also I need to emphasize that I want to have like Udim Mari, and that I need to generate like a preview here. Let me try with a different light, so I'll just lower down the exposure here and maybe create a aerial light and increase the exposure like to 7. Okay, and then try to actually see where it is. Okay, here. Increase the exposure a bit more, and then try to see how it's going to behave like at a bit of a different light. Okay, and now we can see it's like a diffuse light, but you can see that the specular and roughness are actually working. So now if I try to rotate this light and so on and so forth, you can see that, sorry, my mouse is getting buggy. You can see that actually everything it is like we was painted it code. So this is like a very shiny. Now this is kind of goldish and copperish. Now maybe we can kind of tweak these values. Sorry, here for the AI, but anyway, you can see it now that maybe I can play with the IOR. But you can see that the specular and the roughness map and the quality of these materials are actually working quite well and quite similar as it were in 3D Coat. And pretty much if we export this to Unreal Engine, it will look pretty much the same. However, the Unreal Engine does not support Udim, so this is why we're doing it like in 3D software rather than in the engine. So but you can see that actually 3D Coat did quite a good job on this one. Okay guys, so that would be all for this tutorial, and thanks for watching. Take care.